Hello there, onions. Welcome to episode 429 of Reasons to Hate the Modern Mini. So just before Crimbo, winter solstice to be precise, we drove all the way down to Anglesey, just off the coast of Wales, to visit some mates, and drove all the way back again a couple of days later, and nearly 17 kilometres from home. In fact, Mazza was already sending mackerel psychic messages going we're on our way, so that might have tempted fate. But we just pulled on the dual carriageway off the motorway, driving along quite happily, and I went to change gear and there's no clutch pedal. Not just like the clutch pedal's gone to the floor like happens sometimes with brake pedals or clutch pedals when something goes wrong, but it had completely disappeared. And I had been driving for over 4 hours, so I thought, am I going a bit insane here? So pulled into the side of the road, shone a torch down in the footwell, and there was no clutch pedal. So I'm like, right, what the hell's gone on here? The clutch pedal has literally disappeared. So Mazza got out her side, because we were on a busy dual carriageway and trucks were past and stuff. So I got in the passenger seat so I could lean across into driver's footwell and look, and sure enough the clutch pedal was there, but instead of having dropped to the floor, it had dropped and flipped right up behind the dashboard, or behind the fascia there. So long story short, turns out that the Mini had burst a hydraulic line, because it's a hydraulic clutch line. And I got out of the car, popped the bonnet, couldn't see anything at first, and then I looked underneath and there was a puddle of brake fluid, and the clutch was just completely non-existent. So Mazza was in a bit of a state wanting to get out of the car, because it was getting dark and it was a busy dual carriageway and we were just stuck at the side with the feeble hazards flashing. So she joined the AA over the phone, which cost 250 quid, which was fun. And we had to wait about an hour for them to turn up and tow us home. 17 kilometres, about 10 to 15 minutes home. So yeah, a bit of a pisser. So my next mission is to replace the clutch line, the hydraulic line that's bust. I actually thought, because I've got some brake line in the house somewhere, not quite sure where, and I've got the tools for flaring the ends and bending and stuff, I thought I could just make a new bit and replace it myself. But when I had a look on the parts diagram, it looks like it's the metal hydraulic line, and then there's a rubber piece on the end, which wasn't clear from the diagram whether that's detachable or part of the line. So I just ordered a new one. It was only like 25 quid for a genuine BMW/Mini one. So that was due to come on the 3rd of January, today being the 29th of December, but I just got an email this morning saying it's going to be delivered today. In fact, I've just seen the post van go to our house, so it might even be there. But before we do any of that nonsense, let's go and have a look at the car. So I'll get you on the Mini camera and we'll go and have a look and see what the damage is. So you think I was exaggerating when I said the clutch pedal? I just looked down and it had actually vanished. It's not fallen to the floor, it's like gone right up behind here. And find the damn thing there. So yeah, I pressed the clutch pedal and it just disappeared. And I'm driving along in the dark, a bit tired because I've been driving for 4 hours or more, and I'm like, where's the clutch pedal? It's gone. And it was only after we pulled in to the side and I got in the passenger seat and stuck my head underneath that I could see it was right up in here. Fun and frolics. I've put my mat down, my much abused mudline mat, so let's go underneath for a look. There you can see, I hope, hard to tell what this thing's pointing at sometimes when you're looking at a tiny screen. There you can see the clutch sleeve cylinder, and there's the pipe going into it, and artistically framed there, I hope, is a drip of clutch fluid, so you can see where it's leaking from. The pipe just there has rusted through and obviously popped on the motor ballach or on the dual carriageway, and that pipe goes off up there behind the gearbox. So let's go and have a look from the top. This is going to be a bit hard to see, but where I'm shining the torch, down in there, right where that torch is pointing at the minute, is the top end of that metal hydraulic line, and then from what I've seen in the parts diagram it turns into a rubber line. Now when I looked at it the other day, I had in my mind that you got at it via removing the air box, but it actually looks like I'll have to take the fuse box and ECU holding box out of the way to get at it. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of an exploratory operation. So I'm not quite sure how to get at that damn thing. So we'll just have to see how we go. But one thing I will have to do is roll it forward a bit onto slightly flatter ground, and I do mean slightly because it's all really uneven here. But if I can roll it forward and turn it sideways, possibly. But obviously it's difficult because there's no drive at the minute. What I had to do, the AA towed it onto the lane here and then push it back to here, and then I just put it in gear and kind of bumped it back up in reverse on the starter, which was not the best, but it was all I could think of at the time. I actually wanted to do that when we broke down. I said to Mazza, I can probably put it in gear and start it off the starter, but and then maybe drive home slowly in second gear all the way or something. But she didn't want me to do it because she was too scared of a truck hitting us while we languished at the side of the road. So it is what it is now. Here we are, back at the motor. So, as I said, I'm going to take the airbox out first and hope that lets me see the rabbit. It's gone 3 o'clock now, so it's going to be dark in about an hour. So this is just a bit of an exploratory mission, just to see what we can see. So I shall put you on time lapse and find somewhere useful where you can balance, and we'll see what we find. Yay, we're out. Right, the clip looking a bit butt fucked, but we're out. Now theoretically, this should now twizzle out. That's the bit that it doesn't. It's going to need pliers on that as well, I think. I wonder if I could tap it, would it pop out or would it just smash into a million pieces? Oh, yes. Glory boy. Right. Oh, nothing's come out the end, so that suggests it's pretty dry in there. Don't know if there's meant to be a rubber grommet or not either. Yeah, we're out and proud. Okay, so there's the old and the new. Let's turn it around. Oh, bit of brake fluid left in her yet. So I'll put it in front of that for contrast. There's the damage, as you can see. Rusted to buggery and gave way under pressure. And glad to say they both match. So on the bottom end, this plugs into the plastic clip, and at the top end the plastic clip plugs into a flexi hose which ends in an ending like that. Right, this is where I try and grab the end of this one and it drops out the bottom of it. Right, see if we can do some bleeding here. I wouldn't have thought it would have a huge capacity for fluid, that wee piston. This is draining some fluid through, but that's about all it seems to be doing. Is that a drip of something I saw there? Okay, hang on, not loose enough yet. Go again. Right, now something's coming. Some boobles. Oh, that was, whatever you did there, got a good few bubbles out. Whoa, loads of bubbles. Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It might be this cylinder's fucked. Here we are again, a few days later, what with freezing weather, wishing that away. Then we had sleet. Oh, we had a burst pipe as well outside the house which I had to fix, and also waiting for parts, because as you know this has turned into a throw parts at it exercise. So we have a new slave cylinder, although I'm still of the opinion that the slave cylinder isn't the problem, because it was the pipe that burst, unless by bursting something happened to the slave cylinder, which seems unlikely. I'm sure there's a massive air bubble trapped somewhere else further up the food chain that just won't go. And also got an industrial sized thing of brake fluid, because the one I was using is nearly empty. So I'm going to fill the new slave cylinder with brake fluid as we did last time, and then I'm going to go down and put it on the car. And what I'm thinking is, assuming this slave cylinder is good, if I fill it, don't open the bleed nipple, put it on the car, and when I try and squeeze the end, if there's resistance, that'd be a good sign that it's holding pressure, at least in the cylinder. If there's no resistance, and we assume the new cylinder's good, then it must be pushing back up the chain. So either a huge bubble should come out the top, or I don't know, frankly, because it just defies logic so far. As I say, it's not even a question of the pressures or the pedals floppy or the pedals spongy. It's like there's just nothing there at all. So combined with the fact that I've looked all along the pipes, the piston, the upper piston, the pedal, the reservoir, and there's no sign anywhere of the brake fluid leaking out. So it's like you're filling things, you're putting stuff in, and there's never any pressure. So where's it all going? The only thing I can think is that there's just a massive air bubble in the top somewhere down that pipeline, because obviously with the old slave cylinder, where the pipe had broke there, just everything ran out of it. So it ran down in the main reservoir to below the level of where the clutch output line is, because it's higher up than the brake one, so the brakes weren't affected. But the amount of bleeding and pumping and dribbling brake fluid in that I've done with absolutely no result whatsoever is just quite frustrating, and not helped by the fact that it's absolutely freezing today. It hasn't thawed out all day, so it's going to be numb fingers lying under the car on the ice and the hard ground. And normally I would be a bit enthusiastic with a new part, and oh yes, new part for the motor or whatever, but when you think I'm going to do all this and it's not going to make any difference, it does sap your enthusiasm a bit. So anyway, we'll pause it here, and when we resume I shall have filled this, and I shall be down by the car doing something equally futile there. Hello again. Well, I have a confession to make. After all my failed attempts at bleeding, bloody mosquito just flew in there. Sorry, after all my attempts at bleeding up that clutch unsuccessfully, me and Mazza, I ended up just not bothering filming anymore, because it was just getting ridiculous. I just think, oh, I'll try this, film it. Didn't work, try this film, it didn't work, so I just gave up and thought, fuck it, I'm not going to be able to do it on camera. And then tried something else and it did work, but of course I wasn't filming at the time. But we now have mini clutch working. Cut to interlude. I'm not going for a drive because I've got a camera balanced on the right in front of me in the windscreen or dashboard. It's probably not very legal, but I'll just roll forward and back a bit to show you that we have got clutch and thenceforth, or henceforth even, the ability to change gear. So watch the scenery behind me. What are you bleeping at now, shitmobile? Side light out, who cares? Forward. So rather than try and recreate it, I thought I'll just show you what I did, because as you know, in the throwing parts at the problem stage, I bought a new slave cylinder, which in retrospect I think was not the problem after all, but it does give me a spare slave cylinder with which I can demonstrate what I did. And what I used was a El Cheapo vacuum pressure pump kit, that stay open you, one of these cheapo no brand Chinese ones. And the only reason I used this as opposed to the Mighty Vac was I got this off Amazon Vine, and I just brought it out to the shed because if you've watched any of my other videos you'll know I do reviews of Vine stuff, so I just happened to have it lying in the shed and I thought, well, I'll use that rather than the Mighty Vac. It also had the advantage, without this turning into a review, over the Mighty Vac, that its accessories, i.e. the pressure pots, actually came with some rubber grommets to seal the tops of them. Are you watching, Mighty Vac? So they hold pressure properly. And also the PVC tube that it came with, because it was newer than on the Mighty Vac, I was actually able to make a better seal. So let's cut to the chase and I'll show you what I did to bleed this clutch up. For anybody else who's struggling with this, it might work for you. If you want the TLDR, where I was going wrong before was the bleed nipple. Where have I put my spanner? Bleed nipple, which is 11mm. I was loosening the bleed nipple off a couple of turns, like so, and either bleeding out or trying to push fluid in, and it seemed to be doing something because I was getting bubbles out and I was kind of seeing stuff go in, but as it turned out I don't think it was working properly. So just something I happened to read on the interweb, somebody said that they take the bleed nipple right out and then just put it back in by a couple of turns. So I thought, oh, I'll try that. If you look at the bleed nipple, if this is going to focus on it, the threads are right at the end, so you can take it right out and then just put it in on the threads by that much. I didn't explain that very well, but before I did that, ducks out of shot, what I also did was put a bit of PTFE tape around the threads on the bleed nipple, and this PTFE tape is chewed to buggery, but we'll try and demo it. So going in this direction so that it's winding on tighter as you screw the thing in. So I basically put a few wraps of PTFE thread around, PTFE tape even, around the threads, and then I just put it on and screwed it in by hand a couple of turns, so far less than what I'd been using before, if you can see that. So just in by a couple of turns, and then on my no brand pressure vessel, pressure pump, I got the look, rubber grommet to seal the thing. Put one of the short bits of tube into the pot. It was actually touching on the bottom, so I had to cut it in a V, otherwise it was just sealing on the bottom of the tub. Then another short bit onto the end of the gadget. So great fluid in there. I actually had it topped up, and then you want to connect to the pipe that's not the one going down under, so air comes in here, fluid gets pressed up there. So we can connect these together. I was going to make a mess in the shed, but let's see if we're on pressure mode here. Yep. So I'm sure you saw that anyway, but as I press here, it comes out there. So last, but by every means least, in other words, I forgot, the other short piece of tube goes on the other end of this. So what I did then was gentle squeezing to get the fluid right to the end of the pipe on screen, and then release the trigger there so it doesn't suck it back, it keeps it there. And then, mind you, this is all going on under the car. Connect that to the bleed nipple. I know it's upside down at the minute, give me a break, come on. Right, so this is under the car, connect the bleed nipple, and then pump it. Oh no, that's what way does it go? Yeah, it was this way up under the car. Connect that to the bleed nipple and then pumped it away. And as before, I thought, well, this isn't going to do any good. And then after a couple of pumpatrons, I noticed that the fluid level in the bottle had gone down and it was nearly empty. So quickly tightened up the bleed nipple. Went round the front, expecting the usual scenario that we've had with everything we've tried so far, where you touch the pedal and it falls to the floor. But miracle of miracles and hallelujah, pedal solid as a rock, and the car was back working again. So in summary, I don't think there was anything wrong with this original slave cylinder, but the trick that worked for me was don't be shy with the bleed nipple, because just undoing it a couple of turns didn't work at all. So take it right out and put it back in and just turn it in a couple of turns, and that worked fine. I don't know how much of a benefit the PTFE tape on the end of it made, but can't hurt, can it? It's only cheap stuff. And cheapo, I think these are about 20 quid on Amazon, cheapo Chinese vacuum and pressure pump saved the day, where the Mighty Vac didn't. Now that's not really saying the Mighty Vac wouldn't have worked, because I was trying different techniques with that, but it didn't need anything fancy, so this was fine for the job. I've made a bit of a mess here in the shed now by spraying brake fluid about, but yeah, that's basically how we did it. So bleed from the bottom, pressure bleed, make sure the bleed nipple is well open, and hopefully you can put an end to your clutch bleeding nightmares, as I did after about 67 attempts of doing it in different ways. So that's all I got for you. Cheers for watching.